Hello, Steve White, Trickway89 for Steve Arts89. Well, I watched episode 4 of Discovery, season 3, Forget Me Not. I was really wanting to do a positive review and try to be more positive. It's very difficult with this show because there's so little positive about it. Okay, basically this your A and B story for the episode. We start off on the ship. Culber is walking around basically trying to work out how to help the crew because obviously they're not coping well with the situation. We see him talk to Lisa Left Eye, I think her name's Ditmer. And obviously she's not well, but she doesn't want to talk, and it's just it's kind of interesting. I mean, the best thing about it was seeing him walk around in his white uniform because, it's form revealing. That's about all I can say about that scene. The second scene was really pointless. It was Adira, who I want to call Adora, and they're having a talk in the medical bay because they've basically scanned her and her symbiote, and they're debating whether or not to go to Trill. Like, they have an option. It's just so pointless. I don't know why the hell the scene's even there. So she decides, or works out, gee, we need to go to Trill, and they decide to go to Trill. So they spore drive to Trill, and they are sort of welcomed, but then they realise, because apparently they didn't mention this, that the host is a human. And of course, because this show is an ugly show, of course everyone is ugly, so they of course are racist against anyone other than Trills. So they don't want any other races hosting Trills, so they basically kick them off the planet because they don't want a filthy human being there, basically. It's pretty sad. And of course the leader, of course, is a black woman, because every major leader, character, captain is a black woman in this show, which is just becoming cliche at this point. I mean, I don't have a problem with black women being leaders, but I just don't believe in the future they're going to rule every element of society. I don't know. I mean, this was a nice idea for representation, to have a few black women being leaders to show that in the future they will represent just the same as everyone else. But for all of them, it's just becoming ridiculous at this point. It's a joke at this point. You just laugh. Okay, leader, black woman. Okay, it's just funny at this point. And I know people will be like, "Oh, you're racist. You don't want that." It's not that. It's just stupid at this point. It's laughable. You just see it and you go, oh, "Of course." The Federation, every society in the future is a matriarchy and predominantly black. So it's just okay. Okay, so they kick them off the planet. There is an initial squabble where they basically say, we get rid of, she can go, but we want the symbiont. So they want to forcibly remove the symbiont. So of course Michael says, hell no, her life's more important. So they say, well, she can't be one of us, so goodbye. So they send her off. But they don't escort them off the planet. They basically try and kidnap her to get the symbiont back. Of course, Michael takes care of them, all by herself because she's Michael Burnham. And then the guy who was most interested in trying to resolve the problem, because he saw it as a solution if we can get, because apparently all the Trill were destroyed in the burn somehow. They're all on a ship or something. I don't know, maybe they had a big conference or something on board a ship and they're all killed when the ships blew up. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. So basically they've got a shortage of Trills, so they're like, well, this may be the answer to our problems if we can learn to connect and have other aliens host. Then maybe this will save our society and preserve our memories and our history and blah, blah, blah. So he comes up after the others have been downed by Michael and her deadly phaser. At least the phaser at least the phaser beam is blue, and it actually looks like a Star Trek phaser. And the phaser itself, the designs were always good. The props were the only thing about Discovery that actually were canon or seemed canon. So that's the only good thing about that scene. So he takes him to the caves. Adora goes in. I'm just going to call her Adora because I cannot be bothered trying to remember Adira. So Adora goes in. and she's trying to connect, and she just disappears under the water. And apparently they've got these neurological monitors, and that like cracks because there's a problem. So, and because they're not supposed to be there, of course, they've snuck her in. The other people catch up eventually, and Adora goes under the water. Something's gone wrong. She literally disappears. And of course, the only person who can go in, the only person who can save her and resolve the problem is Michael Burnham. So they allow Michael Burnham to go into this sacred space instead of sending in a Trill who perhaps, I don't know, has experience in doing this their whole life, because apparently there are people who, like other religious societies, spend their whole lives around these sort of endeavours and traditions and maintaining things. They don't send one of those people in. They send in Michael Burnham because she's the only person who can solve this problem. Only person. So she goes in, she disappears as well. She goes in and explains to Adora. And Adora, in case you don't know, is He-Man's sister from the She-Ra series, when she didn't hold aloft her power sword and say, you know, for the honour of Grayskull, she was Adora when she wasn't She-Ra. So I can't get past Adora. I'm just going to call her Adora. Okay. Of course, Michael explains to her how to connect, because that's what she just explains everything because she's the only one who can explain and understand everything, and without her, people just cannot exist. People cannot survive. The universe revolves around this character, and it's sickening. And not in a good drag queen RuPaul way. I mean, literally, I got a headache during the show and had to take some Panadol. I'm not joking. I started to get a headache from this. I was momentarily... I'm always talking back to the screen. Like, why? No. That's what it's like watching the show. If you're a fan and you're an intelligent person who can't take shit like this. This is going to be a positive review. I'm sorry. I'm trying very hard. So yes, Michael saves the day, and we get to the crux of the problem. Basically, she was in a relationship with a Trill called Grey. They were on a generational ship. There was an explosion. He was joined, and shortly after, when she's trying to deal with the fact that he's no longer this one person that she knew, there's all these other people now in him and things she has to learn and understand and adapt to. And he's sort of trying to be nice about it, but he's also sort of saying, you knew this was what was going to happen to me, what's the problem, blah, blah, blah. And sadly, what we realise in the first scene with Blue, I think that's the name of the actress, I've forgotten, oops. The trans actress, is she can't act. The Asian, the trans actor can act. The non-binary actress can't act. The trans actor can, and she's very interesting. He's very interesting. They're very interesting. Very young looking, and the actor is young, but they managed to convey such a sense of wisdom and age or something. She really does a brilliant job of projecting the Trill sort of knowledge and the nature of their being as being this like transgenerational being. They're really brilliant. They're really good, and I thought they were only going to be in a couple of scenes. I was like, oh damn, I'd be happy to see this actor and this character on screen like permanently. But we're just going to get the one that can't act. And I hate saying that. It's a young actress, actor, they are, whatever. And they haven't had much experience. I'm sure they're doing their best. They can't help it, but no, they just cannot act. Or haven't learned to. Maybe they will. So basically, she's not being able to connect to the memories because she's resisting the memories, because the memories are her boyfriend dying and taking the Trill to try and have a piece of him and connect to him. So it doesn't quite make sense, but it kind of is a story, and it's basically a love story. So this is not Star Trek, this is not science fiction, this is science fantasy, and now we've got a love fantasy story, and that's what the episode is, a love story. And it's not very sci-fi, it's not very Star Trek. It's kind of interesting on its own, but it just shows that the writers know how to write. Well, they don't know how to write, but they're more familiar with writing drama and romance and stuff like that, and teen dramas and stuff, rather than Star Trek and science fiction and intelligent drama. So basically, she does connect. She accepts that they all come out and accept her as one of them. She gets the memories. She decides they want her to stay. She decides to leave. The actual the ruler of the planet, the black lady, which is funny because when I saw her, I couldn't see her spots because of the color of her skin, and I thought, is she a Trill? Why are there humans on Trill? Like, why aren't these people greeting they're on Trill, not Trills? Because, and even our actresses, the actors, the makeup wasn't very strong. I had trouble seeing it. But she basically says, "Oh, you've basically saved us. Please stay." And she says, "I think my role is on Discovery, and I think that's where I need to be, basically promoting the Trill and getting more recruits to come and help save the shortage." So they leave. Michael saves the day and they leave. And now we go back to the ship, and Paul Saru, we love him. He's the only Star Trek character on this show. And the actor, we love him as well, Doug Jones. He's great. I really want to meet him. He was going to come to Australia, but thanks to coronavirus, it got cancelled. I would have met him already. It's because he's the only person people want to meet. They tried to do some conventions with some of the other bridge extras, and no one cared, and they got cancelled. Basically, he's consulting the computer, which morphs into the sentient female personality in the short trek. So that's who they were talking to. And apparently it's the sphere data that becomes sentient on some level. And they haven't explored this yet, but I think that's what's happening in the background. And she's giving really stupid advice for activities to try and help the crew, like therapeutic colouring in books and yoga and all 21st century things, which is had me yelling at the screen. And then he decides on a dinner party, so he has a dinner party. It's a disaster because these people are horrible, and I can understand why none of them would want to sit at a dinner table with the rest of them. I wouldn't want to be stuck on a ship with them. They, of course, attack each other. They're negative. They're nasty. And it's a disaster, and they all leave. Now, the main issue is, God, what is her name? Ditma? Lisa Left Eye, as we call her, or the fandom menace call her. She starts making... They were doing... Georgiou does a haiku because Saru asked them all to repeat what they said when they all decided to come into the future with Michael, and they all said I. And Georgiou said, I didn't say I, but I'm here nonetheless. And then she says a haiku about the dinner, basically. And then everyone is invited to make a haiku. And Ditma starts making this weird one about Stamets' blood and not being able to clean it off because it's all dark and violent in this series, about Saru not being able to clean up his blood in the engineering section. And she basically has to go at him for being an a-hole, for making it all about him, because they are trying to create an interface for the spore drive so they can use it easily and obviously have it on every ship and have it given to other ships instead of just being all about Stamets. And he doesn't want to let it go because he's a narcissistic gay man, of course, and it's all about him. So apparently that problem hasn't been solved by the 23rd century. So he just won't let it go. She's not happy. She's saying, I flew the ship, and they're just fighting about who's the most important and who matters, and it's just really sad and pathetic, and it's just worse than anyone in our society would behave at a dinner table, especially a work function. And eventually he walks off, partly because he knows it's true, he doesn't want to deal with it, and of course Culber leaves because, they're partners, and then everyone else just leaves, and Paul Saru's left sitting there wondering, how the hell do I do this job? Pike made it look so easy. Tilly comes back, gives him a pep talk, and says, look, you remind us of who we are in your speech earlier. That's called leadership. You're doing a good job. And Stamets comes back in and says, basically acknowledges Tilly and says, I have been an a-hole, because she calls him an asshole at the table. And also the Trill boy, Gray, because she is referred to as a she. The non-binary character is referred to as a she, and she does refer to him as her boyfriend. So he says bullshit as well, and I'm like, why are these characters talking like 20th century? I mean, would you go back into the past and expect people to talk the same as today? Would you go into the future and expect people to talk the same as today? No, it'd be different. But yet people watch this show and accept that people talk in the future exactly like we do today. because they're stupid and can't actually understand that sort of dynamic, and they need it to be just like how they speak and familiar, because they can't think any further than that. It's sad. So he basically apologizes, she accepts it, and they start talking about using black matter to try and make some sort of interface so it doesn't have to be all about Stamets. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, of course, at the end they have a movie night and they show a Buster Keaton film. Black and white, of course, because they can't afford to pay for the rights for any modern films. And they're projecting it in the, looks like the shuttle bay, but they're not projecting it on a wall or on a screen. It's just sort of, it's not a hologram, but it's just sort of floating in the middle of the room, and it's just sort of like shards of light. It doesn't, it's not the way I would screen a film. I mean, we could do better in today, so I don't know why with that sort of technology they couldn't do a better job of screening something like that. And but we see Stamets hug Ditmer because, you know, she was evil and he was evil to each other, and there is some sense of them sort of resolving their issues. And Culber and Saru are talking, and he says, "Look, we're messed up. How it could be anything different? You know, basically you're helping, we're getting there." And that's pretty much it. The only interesting thing about that is they do have popcorn in little traditional sort of boxes with the stripes, and they try to make it like a movie night, and that was something they did on Enterprise and Voyager, and I don't know, I just want this show to be Star Trek, and it's just not. And occasionally you see something that reminds you of Star Trek, and something that, like, that's what I would do if I was on a ship. I'd have movie nights, I'd organise things like that. That's what people would do. So it has a couple of moments where I guess they copied it. I guess someone told them they did that on their shows. I doubt they thought of it themselves. But yeah, so the new actor, the one who plays Grey, I think they're really interesting. The other non-binary character unfortunately showed this episode that they can't act, and that's going to be very painful to see a great actor with a really bad actor doing scenes together constantly. It's going to be atrocious, and I feel bad because they've made such a deal about this character, this non-binary character, this actor, and now they're not good at acting, so they're just there because of their sexuality and their gender and their politics, not because they're actually a good actress or actor. So that's going to get just torn apart, and it deserves to be, because that's how it is. The other actor, fortunately, is really good, so you can't sort of, it's not going to be like a one and done, like people aren't just going to dismiss both of them. They can't dismiss her or him. God, I'm not even trying to get the pronouns. I don't care. It's not a disrespect. It's a matter of, it's really late at night and this review's already like 17 minutes. I have to end it. Yeah, I don't look forward to seeing them doing scenes together, but I'm interested to see what they do with the other character, because they're interesting and they are really managing to project a real personality and character and dynamic that is alien, unlike the other one who just says the lines and looks the way they think they're supposed to look in scenes. Sorry, that's all she does. And her teeth are as bad as mine. Oh, God. See, the thing I most hate about this show is what it makes people. When I review this show, I turn into an angry, bitter, just unhappy, miserable person. This show makes me miserable. And I don't want to be miserable. But this show's not going away anytime soon, so I'll see you next week. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. And maybe even ding the little bell, it helps. Thanks, bye.